Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good people. Yeah, you know what it is. Hard worker, scrappy, unfiltered, and sometimes unhinged football content. Hard to explain, but you know it when you see it. Doing it daily our way. I don't know what you're talking about right now. Redraft and Dynasty Fantasy Football, we got you covered. You know their defense is ranked like 31st in the NFL? NFL draft prospects and rookies? Now you know you in the right place for that.
Absolutely.
All right, then stop saying it. Then we're done. And prop bets with my man Jay Rich.
Count that money, man.
Now wipe the crust out of your eyes, get you a cup of coffee. It's time to wake your ass up with Ray G. You honestly are making absolutely no sense and you sound silly as hell. Get it, GMGP. It is Monday, May 20th, 2024. Y'all decided to wake y'all asses up with Ray G. And I appreciate y'all being in the damn building. I see the chat going off already. What's happening with you with my dog? Gump, what's popping with you, Gump? GMGP, good morning, good morning, good morning to you, my friend. What's up, Cold World TDE? Genty in the building. Garrison, it's a new week. Let's do this. Hell yeah, let's do it, baby. 7 Go Rings in the building. Job Webb, Hunter Joe Green, Tater Wolf, Rico Stone, Dynasty Knob, Ty DeClaire. You see him in the background. Dynasty Trade Show by my dog, Ty DeClaire. Let's get it. What's going down with y'all? Let's have a freaking week, good people. And this is so last week we're going to have old Jay Rich on the show. Jay Rich is taking a vacation. So it'll be just you and me next Monday. Jay Rich will be out. We'll let him talk about why he's taking off from work without 2 weeks notice here in a little bit. But appreciate everybody being in the building. And Elwood, you already talking about it. Keon moving up the power rankings. But is A-N-T, Ant-Man. We got to talk about that man, Anthony Edwards. Last night, he didn't have a great game, actually, but congratulations to the Minnesota Timberwolves, Indiana Pacers, Dallas Mavericks, and the Boston Celtics moving on to their conference finals in the NBA. There's a lot of stuff going on in the sports world, man. WNBA is popping off, going crazy. I don't know if y'all saw the thing with the Aces getting $100,000 a pop, $100,000 each for the Aces.
Really?
You got Scotty Scheffler getting arrested before the start of a damn PGA tournament, still finishes top 10. We got NFL rookies, we got veterans, we got NBA. Jay Rich, what's happening with you, big dog? How you doing this morning?
I'm good, Ray. I'm good. You know, the people are going to give me hell because Anthony Edwards got it done. He played well in that fourth quarter.
You talked a lot of stuff about old Anthony Edwards.
Okay, can we clarify a little bit? Okay,
so
we can't clarify.
Go ahead.
I said he could be a star in a bigger market. I didn't say I didn't like him. I didn't say he wasn't good.
The people were not happy with you. I just want to let you know that.
We got a lot of Minnesota fans in the building. And Ray, because you are a local man, you are a North American purist, you did miss on probably the biggest piece of news throughout the weekend. And I can't blame you for it because
what was the biggest piece of news?
In the Bundesliga, Ray, if you know what the Bundesliga is, it is the German Premier League for soccer. Bayern Leverkusen finished their invincible season going 28-6, and they haven't lost a game in 51 games, Ray. They went an entire season without losing and won the Bundesliga. Absolutely insanity. And they still have one more game to win Europa League. Insane what these guys have done this season. I have no clue what y'all are talking about right now.
I
know you don't know. I know you don't know.
I don't even know what
but
these
I wanted
words
to give
are.
a shout out to Bayer Leverkusen because they are ridiculously good, unreal season. I knew we wouldn't talk about it unless I talked about it, so I had to give a shout out to Bayer Leverkusen on their invincible season.
I legitimately don't even know how to pronounce that or what those words are. No clue whatsoever. But I do know Anthony Edwards got it done. Jay Rich, Ant-Man,
he did.
Even though he
didn't really get it done, but
well,
the Wolves got it done.
He didn't play well in the game. I think he had 16 points in the game, but the Minnesota Timberwolves did beat the Denver Nuggets 98-90. Jay. First team in NBA Game 7 finals history to overcome that type of deficit. 15-point deficit at halftime, and they got it freaking done behind Cat. Karl Anthony Towns had 23. Jaden McDaniels had 23. Edwards had 16. Naz Reid came off the bench, 6th man of the year, got it done. And what was crazy about this game, dog, I'm watching it at half. I'm like, oh, it's a wrap. Like, these dudes, it's like Denver's got them. Between Jokic and Jamal Murray, Jay, they scored damn near 70 points, 69 points with those two. The Nuggets scored a grand total of 90, the only two players on Denver in double figures. I mean, Michael Porter Jr., no-show. Aaron Gordon, no-show. just
Brick.
zeros across. I mean, 4 points from KCP. It was just an awful supporting cast performance. Jokic and Jamal Murray went for over 34 points a pop. Jokic had 19 boards. Murray did his thing.
Yep.
But when your rest of your team, nobody else was in double figures, you got no shot to win. And we talked about Edwards only having 16 points. I mean, the supporting cast, they had, 6 players in double figures in that game?
Yep.
That's how you win the game. They won the turnover margin. They didn't turn the ball over as much as the Nuggets, and they came back to win it. So you've got a Minnesota-Dallas Western Conference Finals. I think Dallas will get it done in 6. I got the Mavs in 6. I love what the Minnesota Timberwolves are doing, but I think Luka, Kyrie, the Mavs, Gafford addition, PJ Washington come in. I got Dallas in 6.
All right. Yeah, I mean, credit to the T-Wolves, right? You mentioned they were down early, 15 points in the first half, 20 points in the third quarter. Ultimately, they just wore down the Nuggets, and it was clear by even the middle of the third quarter, they were relentless. They're younger. They're faster. They just couldn't do it anymore. And by the fourth quarter, they'd basically given up. They're turning the ball over. They can't run back on defense. And that's when Ant really started to do his work. He has all the hustle. He keeps grinding, keep playing great defense, and was creating in transition. And obviously, someone mentioned in the chat already, hitting that dagger 3. But, Ray, it's going to be interesting, man. I think that Minnesota's a deeper team. So I'm curious how Dallas plays them. Ant says he's going to take on Kyrie, which to be interesting. I hoped he'd take
They're
Luka,
not deep. They played 6 players. They played 6 players last night, man. After Naz Reid, I'm not worried about Kyle Land. They're not deeper. They've got 6 players. They got a 6-man rotation, man. 6, 7-man rotation. They're not deeper than Dallas. They're not deeper. It's funny that you weren't in on. Now you don't watch any. You thought Minnesota would lose to Denver, and now you think they'll beat Dallas.
But you're talking about Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington. Like, it's a 2-man show in Dallas. When Jaden McDaniels is putting up 23, when you know Cat can put up 20, when Rudy Gobert is going to put up 15, especially on a Dallas team that doesn't play against the interior very well, like Naz Reid can score and played phenomenally in Cat's absence late in that game. Like, I think when you just look at the team, it's fair to say that Minnesota has a lot more options, and that's just how I feel.
But here's the thing, Jay. Let me just tell you. You're wrong, though. You are wrong. Okay. It's not just Gafford. It's Derek Lively. It's P.J. Washington. It's Tim Hardaway Jr. They are not deeper than Dallas. You might be excited about Anthony Edwards, but what you're factually...
I'm not like a big
that's what I'm not
Edwards
arguing.
guy.
I'm just telling you, what you're factually saying is not right. Like, you're incorrect with this one. So let's move to the Eastern Conference Finals, and we've got the Indiana Pacers versus the Jason Tatum-led Boston Celtics. And what's more interesting about these finals, this Western and Eastern Conference Finals, Jay? No LeBron, no Steph Curry, no Kevin Durant, no Kawhi Leonard. It's just a whole new era of basketball. And we're seeing this across multiple sports, not just the NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball, like the era that we grew up in, the LeBrons, the KDs, the James Hardens, like they are being ushered out. Just like in the NFL, the era of that we grew up in, right? We grew up with Peyton Manning, with Tom Brady, and some of even the newer stars. Before you know it, you'll be looking up, and Justin Jefferson's going to be a 9-year pro, and people are like, he's on the downside of his career. Before you know it, you'll look up and you'll be like, damn, Patrick Mahomes is already 33 years old. This is how quickly sports sort of evolves and moves. But Celtics versus the Pacers. Elle would say I'm being a homer. I don't even like the Mavericks like that. I'm a Lakers fan. Everybody knows that. I'm not being a homer. I'm just watching the games, and I'm telling y'all what I see. All that shit that Timberwolves fans were talking, it was looking real shaky when they lost two straight versus Denver, and now they're just gonna come in and beat Dallas. I don't know about that one. I think Boston in 5, dog. I think Boston takes care of Indiana in 5. I think Boston takes care of Indiana in 5. I got Boston. So
you don't think they blow game 2 again like they have every series
Maybe.
so far?
I mean, Halliburton is dope, but I'm putting my chips with Jason Tatum. The Eastern Conference, they have had a very easy cakewalk through the Eastern Conference so far. You got Brown, you got Tatum, the veteran leadership of Horford. They've got scrappy guys like Peyton Pritchard coming off the bench, et cetera, et cetera.
Damn, scrappy.
Like, hey, man, scrappy. You got to deal with Hallie.
Come on.
If Hallie's going to play the way that he played earlier in the series, then it's going to be a tough out. They got double-digit points from damn near everybody. I think all 5 starters were in double digits for the Indiana Pacers versus the Knicks, who were just decimated by injuries. I think Boston takes care of them in 5, Jay. I got Boston in 5 in this matchup, man.
Yeah, I don't hate it, right? I think Boston's going to win, too. I'm a big Tatum guy. Always loved Jason Tatum. He hasn't got it done yet, but this year seems like make or break for him and Brown at this point. You know, we'll see what happens on the West side, but definitely through the East, it's looking very easy. You mentioned the starters, 17 points apiece for all five starters on Indiana.
Crazy, dude.
But I mean, New York, OG couldn't play. Bronson got hurt late.
Got
like
hurt.
Even Josh Hart was hobbled.
He was hobbled.
The saddest part about this is like what the Knicks maybe could have been, but it's hard to not look at what Tibbs does all year and be like, bro, you seriously
people say he's
can't do
the
this.
coach that people would least likely want to play for is Tom Thibodeau.
The practices are hard. You play a lot of minutes. And then when you break down in the semifinals of the Eastern Conference, it's like, well, no shit. This is why you have Kawhi on rest plans, LeBron on rest plans. Like, you just can't play these minutes. But I do think Boston will probably win. I personally believe that Porzingis will be the X factor for them.
Yeah.
If he can play and be very effective, he would really help them beat Indiana because he provides that interior presence that can score and defend. Again, what is Indiana going to do offensively, especially on the road in Boston? That's the biggest question. Are they going to win 2 games in Boston? I doubt it. So I think they probably win in 6. I think Boston will drop a game like they just kind of have every single series so far, but they should win fairly handily. Like you said, 5 or 6 should be more than doable for the Boston Celtics. The question is, though, Ray, can they win the finals? Because there will be a pretty good team coming out of the West, whether it's Minnesota or Dallas.
I don't know. Let's get through the conference finals first, and then we can do the NBA finals matchup. But here's the thing. I like these playoff matchups. I am going to be watching Minnesota versus Dallas. I think it's a good matchup. 2 exciting teams, and you got 2 of the most exciting players in the NBA. And then on the other side, Tyrese Halliburton and that team and the Pacers versus the Celtics should be a nice little conference matchup here as we round out the summer and go into NFL training camp that is right around the corner, Jay. We are almost out of May. June, you know, it starts to ramp up, right? The OTAs, you got to get there, the voluntary, involuntary workouts. We're getting close to training camp.
Who's not?
Not a lot of news out of the NFL right now. Not a ton of news. Not a lot of player news. Not a lot of talk. We did have the rookies. Did you see the rookies getting together for their NFLPA?
Oh, the photo shoots?
The photo shoot. They're all in there. They're all in their uniforms. It's just so cute. You see those rookies out there. They're just in there. They're in their jerseys. It's like to take my son to opening day of 8U baseball. They're all in their uniform, and they're taking pictures. But we got our first little glimpse at some of them doing some stuff. But the schedule release, Jay, that's what everybody is talking about, the NFL schedule release. Who's got the easiest schedule? We've already seen the strength of schedule. We know some of the teams that have some difficult matchups. I want to focus in on a couple of teams, and we're not going to go week 1 through week 2. I want to talk about individual teams and the outlook that we think these teams are going to have in the NFL, and in turn, what we should be paying attention for in fantasy, some difficult matchups. Let me just ask your wholesale question around schedules. When it comes out, how much of that do you bake into your process or analysis when you're looking at who you want to draft? Are you really honed in on how difficult their schedule is, how many games they're favored to win or lose? How does that help you formulate decisions that you make going into fantasy?
I would say it's a very, very small piece of the puzzle, right? You know, I think you obviously want to look at bye weeks. That's going to be probably the most common use of why you look at the schedule, because you want to make sure you don't have too many conflicting bye weeks. But then beyond that, you know, I think you start to look at playoff scheduling. Does a player have a really rough playoff schedule? Are they in Cleveland? Are they in Cincinnati? In Baltimore? You know, some of these colder places, especially in December and January, where if you expect a big performance from a pass catcher, you may not get it. But ultimately, Ray, I think the reality is you still have to actually get there in order to play for that title. So you can look at the schedule, you can project all you want, but you still need to have good players that produce throughout the season. I personally like to look at players who get off to hot starts, and then you can play that game with the dome schedules and all that stuff kind of later in the year. But I feel like that's more of a mid-season as you make that playoff push type of environment, more so than I'm only drafting based off of the schedule right now. Unless, you know, you're talking maybe some more international games or some potential trap spots, but that's a lot more on the betting front, I find, than it is for the season-long fantasy stuff. I know for Underdog, though, Ray, you're definitely looking at that playoff schedule when you're trying to take down a tournament like Best Ball Mania 5.
Yeah. One of the teams that I want to start off talking about, Jay, is I believe, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe the Minnesota Vikings are favored to lose like damn near every game, like a significant
like
portion.
they're dogs in every game right now.
I'm almost positive that that news came out. They are favored. They are underdogs in week 1 versus the Giants, Jay. And let's just take a look here. Okay, let's pull up the, because I want to talk about Minnesota and a player in particular, Justin Jefferson. Not even so much JJ McCarthy, but here we go. This is the Vikings schedule. They start off with the Giants. So they're favored to lose versus the Giants. So you pretty much can say that's if they're favored to lose there. Niners, Houston, Green Bay, Jets, week 6 bye week. Then you've got Detroit, the Rams, the Colts, the Jags, the Titans, the Bears, the Cardinals, Falcons, Bears, Seahawks, Packers, and Lions. So from this schedule,
tough.
Let's really quickly go through this. I'm going to give Minnesota a dub versus the Giants. I'm saying they're going to beat the Giants.
1-4, best case probably.
They're going to lose to San Francisco, probably to Houston, probably to Green Bay. Jets defense is tough. Week 5. Here's my thinking. Even if it's Sam Darnold, that is not a good game for Sam Darnold to see ghost again. It's going to be PTSD for Darnold. I highly doubt they're going to throw, just my opinion, Jay, looking at the start of this schedule, it would probably not be wise to start J.J. McCarthy week 1. I just don't know if you really want to throw him out there versus the Niners, the Texans, the Packers, and then the Jets. It feels like that week 6 bye is Sam Darnold is either stunk it up enough that we need to make a decision, move on from him, insert J.J. McCarthy, or they're somehow winning some games and they continue to roll. But as I look through the schedule, dog, this is a very difficult schedule, Jay. After the bye, you got to go Detroit versus Detroit. Then you got to go to L.A., you play the Colts, then you got the Jags, Titans, Bears, Cardinals. You're looking at a team that could be 1-7, 1-8 by the time they get to week 10, week 11. My whole fear with Minnesota, and I talked about this last night on the show with Scott, we did an underdog draft, is my fear for Justin Jefferson. And it has absolutely nothing to do with how good Justin Jefferson is. We all know he is top 2, top 3 receiver in the league at worst, right? At worst, Jay. But with this schedule, with the uncertainty at the quarterback position, like, I don't feel good that if they're not in it, is he even going to be around come week 17 to give his all for a 3-11 Minnesota Vikings team versus Green Bay in week 17? Is he going to be around to give his all if they've only won 2 games, they're out of playoff contention, he doesn't have a new deal, and he wants a new home? This is a tough schedule for Minnesota. So just your thoughts about the Vikings, their early schedule, how this impacts J.J. McCarthy or Justin Jefferson? Because I am concerned, Jay.
Yeah, I mean, I think your concerns are definitely valid, but I think if I'm going to be devil's advocate here, you're also looking at a situation where maybe the pass volume could be higher than expected, right? When you look at JJ McCarthy.
Hold on. Merz, what do you mean, Ray? Come on, man. What? They're favored to lose. What am I coming on for? We did this last year, and I told you, who was I concerned about last year? Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, those guys being around in week 17. Neither of them were there and did a damn thing. Come on, what? This is the schedule. Like, this is talking through real fucking football and not just everybody because they're a star, they're going to be great no matter what. Long gone are the days of when I heard fantasy analysts telling me, start your studs no matter what, doesn't matter. Like, that's not how I play. Come on, what? Go ahead, Jay.
You good? So my only counterpoint is, one, JJ came back and played very, very well. Kirk Cousins was not playing, not active, and the Minnesota Vikings were able to get him the ball, and I believe he had almost 1,000 yards or almost 1,200 yards in like 10 games, whatever he played. So I'm not really concerned about him from a volume perspective or a yardage perspective, but your point is definitely valid about, are the touchdowns going to be there? Can you even bank on 6+ touchdowns for him this season? 7+, 8+.
I don't even, Jay, I'm not even going to what it has nothing to do with him, right? It has nothing to do with him, right? Like,
but I think the volume will still be there, though. Like, you're talking about bad matchups. Even if it's Sam Darnold throwing the ball, 11 targets, 12 targets, 13 targets in games where you're probably going to be down, right? Like, even in the Rams game, they're probably down in that game. In a Jags game, they're probably down in that game. Chicago could be close. Arizona, they could be down. Atlanta, they would probably be down. Seattle, iffy. And, of course, Green Bay, they're definitely down in that game. So when you look at the playoff schedule, right, you have the Bears, I believe you have the Seahawks, and then you have, was it the Packers at home for the last game?
Green Bay.
So all of those situations are manageable for a player who's probably going to be down in those games, and lots of decent stacking opportunities on the other end. So I don't hate Jefferson. I understand if you're talking about the absolute ceiling because of the quarterback play, but I think what people are missing a little bit
at
is
105,
like,
I am talking about the
volume.
at 105, fucking right, I'm talking about the ceiling. At 105, yes, I'm talking about the ceiling.
But you still may see a player who catches 140 passes and has 1,800 yards. They just may not come with touchdowns, and it may be entirely volume-based, which isn't terrible if you get enough of it. And Jefferson is one of the very few players that could probably still be a top 5 pick and have enough volume. And when you look at the schedule like that, it tells me, okay, yeah, there's a world where he disappoints because of quarterback play, but there's also a world where he plays very, very well for fantasy because the volume has to be there simply for them to be competitive in games at all.
And again, we're just talking through these situations because we sit back and we're not playing, Jay. We're not playing, so we're just like, oh, give your all. The same effort you were giving in week 1 and week 2, just continue to give your hard-earned effort all the way throughout the season. Again, I reiterate this to people who like Jay. We all know folks, right? It has nothing to do with who, but I'm talking to people like I know people who play in the NFL, Jay, and it's a job. And by the end of the season, the same way, by the time the summer rolls around and you're fucking sick of your 9 to 5 and can't wait for a vacation, they're the same way, dude. I've been doing this shit since May. We're 3-13. I'm ready to go home. I want to see my family. I don't give a damn about the Jaguars in week 18. I'm trying to get out of here. And you know what Justin Jefferson and players want more than wins? You know what they want more than wins and stats?
Probably
Jay?
money.
They want their damn money. That's what they want more than wins, more than stats. They want their money. They want to be paid. They want to be compensated for their services, not being available in week 17 when they're 2-11 or whatever the record is. So we're just talking through, this is what the books are saying, that the Vikings are probably not going to be very good. We know the quarterback situation is not blossomed to what it potentially could be in the future. So we look at a difficult schedule. We look at a disgruntled player who doesn't have a quarterback anymore. He also doesn't have his contract. All I'm saying is at the 105, 106, I don't feel great about it. I'm not going to completely fade him. I just don't feel great about it today. It's May 20th. Things will shift, but today I would rather go in a different direction.
Can we play a game then? So would you take Amon-Ra over him? Because I think him and Amon-Ra are actually an interesting,
I did it last night.
Conversation.
Thank you, baby. Baby mama said the lighting looks good. Appreciate you, mom. She is in Cancun right now. She has been gone since Friday. So I've been on GQ solo pops over here. So she comes back today, excited to see her. She said the lighting looks good. But go ahead. What'd you say?
So Bijan Robinson over him. I'd imagine you may consider
I took
that
Amon-Ra over him last night at 104. I took Amon-Ra at 104 over him last night for the same very reason and built a dope squad. But I took Amon-Ra over him.
And you're not taking Garrett Wilson over him, would you? That's an interesting one because we don't really know what Garrett Wilson is with Aaron Rodgers, right? Garrett Wilson's the guy we're still projecting.
He's a first rounder. Would you take Garrett Wilson over Justin Jefferson this year?
I couldn't do it. As much as I love what could be with Rodgers, I know what Jefferson is. He's a dog.
Okay.
But Ray, I wanted to ask you, have you seen the Steelers schedule? And I want to know how much Steelers exposure you have.
Well, let's take a look. I wanted to talk about Houston. So we could pull up. You want to pull up Pittsburgh? No, we can pull up Pittsburgh first. We'll pull up Pittsburgh first.
I only want to bring this up because if you look at their schedule, Ray, it is probably one of the most difficult schedules in the back half we've seen in a long time.
You think so? I think I got a team that's got a more difficult back half than Pittsburgh. But let's pull up Pittsburgh. Let's see what they got. Let's pull up Pittsburgh for the people. Let's pull them up. I got them right here. Pittsburgh Steelers. What we got? What we got for Pittsburgh?
Okay, so no one can see anything.
Well, no one can see. Okay. Yeah, I'll get it.
Because which week is their bye week would be, it looks like
Here we go. Atlanta,
right.
Denver.
Atlanta, fine. Denver, Chargers, Indy. Dallas will be tough. Vegas, New York twice. And then the bye week, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. They're probably going to get out about 500 or so. Then after the bye week, right, when it gets really tough. At Washington, okay, but it's on the road. Baltimore at home, Cleveland on the road. That won't be easy. At Cincinnati versus Cleveland at home. At Philly, at Baltimore, at KC, and then finally a home game against Cincy in week 18. So, Ray, not only will it be cold, because you're still going to Cleveland and Cincinnati in November, which, again, not great. Even Pittsburgh on November 17th.
How do they put all their division games in? Like,
all their divisional games are right at the end.
Dude, all they're missing is another. Dude, both Cleveland's, both Baltimore. Wow.
And both Cincinnati's are from, what is it, week 13 to 18 or week 12 to 18. So I only bring this up because people are drafting Pickens. People are drafting Najee, Jalen Warren. Oh, these are the guys who are going to break out. Yeah, maybe early in the season. But honestly, you look at this, and if there was a team to fade entirely, this could be the team. Like, this is Cleveland, they're maybe putting up 20 points. Cincinnati, they're maybe putting up 20 points. Cleveland, again, 20. Philly, if Philly's defense is good, maybe they put up 20 points. At Baltimore, good luck. And then just the playoffs. Philly, Baltimore, KC, I'm out. No way. They may help get you there, but I don't know, man. That's just too tough. Too tough to be drafting Pickens where he's getting drafted.
When does Justin Fields play? He's going to play this year. I mean, he's going to be on the field. This is.
But even if he does play, right?
I know.
To your point, he's not going to play when it's easy. He's going to play when he's got to play against Cleveland and against Cincinnati and against Baltimore. Just something to think about. We talk about tough schedules, and we talk about, what are some situations you maybe want to at least be aware of. Pittsburgh's schedule is definitely one of them because it is not good. It is not good, especially for the playoffs.
I'll say this. I still like their running game. I like what they've done offensively. The addition of Frazier, the addition of Fatanu. They had Broderick Jones from last year. Darnell should be on the field with Arthur Smith more. He's a good blocking tight end. You invest in that offensive line. You don't have Deontay Johnson anymore. You've replaced him with a rookie wide receiver, and you've got George Pickens who runs 2 routes. I would probably run the ball. I believe that I would still be comfortable with Najee Harris and Jalen Warren from a volume perspective, Jay. The receiving game is where it's really scary. Freiermuth is probably a little undervalued at this point in time. Maybe we should be a little more bullish on Freiermuth in that offense. But this is a very difficult schedule. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This is, you might be right. The back half, from week 10 to week 18, this is tough.
Those are all playoff teams. That's 7 straight playoff games. 8 straight playoff games.
That's a difficult
Baltimore,
schedule.
Cleveland, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Philly, Baltimore, KC, Cincinnati. 8 straight playoff games for Pittsburgh.
That's a tough
They'd be lucky to go 3-5 in that schedule. Like, lucky to go 3-5. So it's gonna be tough for the Steelers this year. It's gonna be tough.
Let's pull up everyone's favorite team, man. It feels like this is the team of the people now, the Houston Texans. So the Texans schedule,
certainly is.
Everybody loves them some Texans, and I just want to focus in on their fantasy playoff schedule. They get their week 14 bye, which is great that they get that bye going into the final stretch of their games. But coming out of that bye, they've got Miami, Kansas City, and Baltimore. Those are their 3 playoff matchups. Week 15 at home versus Miami. Then they travel to Kansas City in week 16, and then they're at home versus Baltimore on Christmas Day, week 17. Now, prior to that, I don't. This doesn't look like it's an impossible task to overcome. Indy, Chicago, Minnesota, Jacksonville, Buffalo, New England, Green Bay, Indy, New York, Detroit, Dallas, Tennessee, Jacksonville. It's a difficult schedule, but it's more so that back half playoff schedule, fantasy playoff schedule for CJ Stroud and Houston. How you feeling about Houston's schedule?
It's definitely tough. When you look at the back half, though, I like the games are at home. I'm very curious about Miami this year because I think Miami seems bad, but when you're talking about fantasy points, they could also be an absolute blessing, right? Because they can put up a lot of points, and their defense at times is very suspect. And so, talk about a CJ Stroud-led Texans team playing at home against the Dolphins. I think that's a very good matchup, especially being at home. When you talk about the early season schedule, I think the question is, how do they play against Indy? Because I think Indy's a team that we know will be able to give them some fits and put up some points against them, but I think we should expect Houston to probably sweep Indy. And outside of that, you have a couple tough games with the Jaguars will be tough. They got the Cowboys, they got the Lions. But I think that late season schedule is not that bad, right? Going to Kansas City late isn't great. that could be kind of your undoing. But I think
not
playing the two
great.
games at home,
It's not
playing
great.
Baltimore at home and playing Miami at home, I think that's the great equalizer. At least they're playing inside, got the home crowd in front of them, and I think Stroud can be able to still put up, 300 yards and 2 touchdowns on both those teams. Baltimore will be the one can he still get it done against them? Because that will be a very tough game. But Kansas City is where you kind of need to have someone potentially to help bolster that week, because that will be the week that CJ Stroud either blows up because it's a massive game, huge stage in Kansas City, and he shows up, or he kind of falters a bit because of the cold and because it's Kansas City in December. But outside of that, I think their schedule is actually pretty good, and I'm not really too worried about Houston at all after seeing that schedule. How do you feel about
My man
them?
Moggs said running the ball is the Steelers' season-long game plan until Russ or Justin can catch a rhythm and click. I think they're just going to run the ball too. I believe they're just going to run the shit out of the football, Jay. They are going to do that. We've got Texans go 5-1 in the AFC South, splitting with the Colts. That's a good one. And then Jeremiah, shout out to our boys doing the best ball content, Best Ball After Dark. Make sure you check that out. Best Ball Night School, Best Ball After Dark is the joint I did with Pete Overzat. But late season matchups can always get easier based on health of teams and vice versa. So hard. That's why, again, Jay, what do we do on this show? We talk through just about everything. From the NFL draft, what if 6 quarterbacks go round 1? What if only one goes round 1? That way, when the thing actually happens, at least we will have had some conversation about it and some formulation, or be able to formulate some sort of opinion based on some of the exercises that we've done. That's why we kind of talk through these schedules of sorts. Somebody said something about the Cowboys. I think it was Garrison in here talking trash, man. Said the Texans, the real team of Texas. Sorry, I had to. It is. Let me tell you right now, it's a great time to be. It's a great time to be a sports fan in Dallas. You've got the Texas Rangers, World Series champs. You got the Dallas Stars, who are on the cusp of an NHL Stanley Cup, right? You got the Dallas
Stars. Did they make it to the finals yet?
They sure did. They beat the Avalanche.
Oh, nice.
They beat the Avalanche. They won the series 4-2. So the Dallas Stars doing their thing. We got the Dallas Mavericks in the Western Conference Final. Jay Rich, we even had the XFL Arlington Renegade win the damn XFL football championship right here in the Metroplex in the damn Dallas Cowboys, dog. 28 years and counting.
No hope.
No hope.
We need to get your Dallas Cowboys schedule. I think we should, right? I think we got to talk your Cowboys schedule. We need a record projection for the Dallas Cowboys from Mr. GQ himself. We will break down every game briefly, and we will give our win-loss opinion on the Cowboys schedule.
All right, let's go through the Cowboys schedule. Dallas Cowboys, Cleveland. At Cleveland, they lose this game. They'll lose. They'll lose week 1. They're going to lose. And I like that, but you put Tyler Guyton out there against Myles Garrett week 1, it's probably not going to end well. They lose to Cleveland. They beat the Saints.
Yep.
They lose to Baltimore. They beat they beat the Giants. They beat Pittsburgh, and they lose to Detroit. Okay. So they go into the bye.
They lose to Detroit. Oh, I guess that's a big revenge game. Are you going to go to that game?
They lose to Detroit.
That game will be
Detroit.
Bumping. Yeah,
they'll lose to Detroit at home.
So Baltimore will be their first home loss, Baltimore, in what, like 2 years?
Pardon?
I said that would be their first home loss in what, like 2 years or 3 seasons for the Cowboys if they lose to Baltimore there?
Their first home loss? No, they've lost. No, I don't believe that's correct. San Francisco, they lose to the 49ers. They'll beat Atlanta. They'll beat Philly, lose to Houston, beat Washington. They'll beat the Giants. They'll lose to Cincinnati. They'll beat Carolina, lose to Tampa Bay. They'll split with Philly and lose this one, split with Washington and lose that one. And that's how they round out the season. So that was like 7 wins. I think it was like 7 wins. That's what I think.
Go through one more time. Because I missed the bottom half there on the screen. So Cleveland's a loss. So we got 1 win, New Orleans.
I will call them out. You just keep tabs. Are you ready?
All right. Yes,
loss versus Cleveland. Win, loss, win, win, loss. All right? Loss versus San Francisco. They'll beat Atlanta. They'll beat Philly. They'll lose to Houston. They'll beat Washington. They'll beat New York again. They'll lose to Cincinnati. They'll lose to Cincinnati. They'll beat Carolina. Loss versus Tampa Bay. Loss versus Philly. And then they'll round out the season with a loss at Washington.
9. That's not bad. Come on.
9 wins?
That's
Okay.
in the NFC, that's basically playoffs.
Okay.
Right? Last year that was
9
playoffs.
wins. 9 wins. I believe
Yeah,
I think
wild
the
card.
over-under is 10.5 on the books. I think it's 10.5.
Ooh.
I've got the under 10.5. I believe it's 10.5.
Well, you also had them losing to Tampa, though. They could beat Tampa. It's a home game.
Well, you
right?
asked me my opinion. I think they lose to Tampa Bay. I think they lose to Tampa Bay. I think they're 9 wins. That's 9 wins. Ray, you're talking about Miles, but the Cowboys not stopping Watt, Highsmith. Now, come on. Okay, well, they'll stop Russell Wilson and George Pickens. I believe that their defense will limit Pittsburgh's offense. Like the hopium that some of y'all have for your fan bases is absolutely insane. I just don't get it. I come on here every week and I try to be objective. I'm not an annoying Cowboys fan, Jay. Am I unrealistic for my boy? Now, when we're winning, yes, I'm talking shit.
Yo,
we're
say it
having
depends
fun.
on the week.
When we're winning, I'm talking, but I am very realistic. And you're talking about the damn Pittsburgh Steelers offense. Like, what about that offense? Talk to me about your offense. Talking about Highsmith and Watt. Okay, we got Micah Parsons and Diggs. Talk about Russell Wilson and Arthur Smith and that dog shit offense. Talk about that. Where you at, Jay? Where are we at?
Ray, I don't got much to say, man. Arthur Smith is not good. Whether you look at his actual production from an offensive standpoint or how he is for fantasy, both are not good. So I'm curious. Honestly, Ray, I think the biggest conversation with Pittsburgh is whether you kind of get the old Steelers or you really get like the true Arthur Smith experience. Because Pittsburgh has been pretty good for fantasy in the past, and there is generally some pretty good volume there. But if they really are all in on Arthur Smith, which none of us want, it's going to be really bad for fantasy. And you know, the fans can be excited because the defense is good, but the offense needs to put up points. And with Arthur Smith at the helm, that's probably not going to happen.
So one of the biggest storylines, Jay, so far throughout the offseason, I think it's the biggest storyline, personally, thinking about the draft, thinking about free agency, is the Atlanta Falcons quarterback room. It's Kirk Cousins. It's Michael Penix. It's a situation of is he even going to play in 2024? Hell, is he going to play in 2025? Some people don't think he's even going to take a snap for the next 2 years. Yeah. Let's take a look at Atlanta's schedule, Jay. Is it even realistic to think that Penix is coming in? Because I believe their strength of schedule is very, very favorable. They've got a very good strength of schedule. I don't think it's a very difficult schedule.
Trash,
I think
right?
It's pretty good. You said it's trash.
On like the South is trash, right? Like, and I think their cross division is the East this year. So they play obviously the South in their division, and then their cross, or I guess no, that doesn't even make any sense. But they do play the East as well, and then it looks like they play the West.
Well,
that's actually we'll see.
Okay,
it's all right.
Cousins is playing. Cousins is on the field. Cousins is on the field. We're seeing him in practice clips. So I'm just going to preface everything by I believe Kirk Cousins is ready to go. And he's the starter week 1, and he picks right back up where he left off in Minnesota. That's the assumption that we're going to base this under. Pittsburgh versus Atlanta. Who wins that game week 1? Pittsburgh, Atlanta week 1. Want to give it to the veteran team that's not trying to figure it out with the new coach, new offensive coordinator. Pittsburgh gets a dub.
I kind of want to give it to Atlanta.
On the road. Road Falcons
they'd be at home. They'd be at home.
Excuse me. Yes. They're at home.
They'd be at
Pittsburgh.
home. I think they'll put up more points. Like both, and I've always been a big fan of the Atlanta defense. They still need to kind of figure it out, but with Raheem Morris, I think that defense will be much improved on the back end. I think they can beat Pittsburgh.
Philly?
Probably not. Kirk don't play so well in Philly.
KC?
We know that already.
KC?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Saints, we're in division. We're in division.
I will give them the home victory against the Saints and the Bucks.
Okay, man. So at this point, you got them starting off 4-1. Got Atlanta 4-1.
No,
Carolina
3-2. Lost to Philly and KC.
All right, 3-2. Carolina
they should
dub.
beat Carolina. Yeah.
Seattle at home.
They should beat Seattle at home, right? They probably should.
We'll see. Tough game at Tampa Bay. Split. Tampa Bay gets 1.
Split. Yep.
Dallas.
I think this is where it gets dicey, right? They're going to lose to Dallas at home.
Okay.
They're going to lose in New Orleans. They're going to lose in Denver.
Okay, at that point, they've lost 4 straight. You've got to, at this point, they've lost 4 straight. They've got the bye. Then they come out of the bye.
So the bye's next. Can you scroll down?
Yep, sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
They've got the bye, and then it's the Chargers, Vikings, Raiders, Giants, Commanders, Panthers. I will just say, especially those last. I mean, there's good players on all those teams, but could we get a peek at Penix towards the end of this season? Could we get a peek of them?
So here's what I think is interesting, Ray. They have Minnesota on their schedule, right? That's not a coincidence. And I think you have to project Kirk playing past that Minnesota game. Because there's no way Penix is playing before Kirk goes back to Minnesota unless he gets hurt. Like, there's just no way. Even if they lose 4 straight, they go to the bye. You know, they play the Chargers at home. They probably win that game. It'll be a close game, slugfest. We'll see. But then Kirk has to go to Minnesota, which is all about the storylines. And when he loses that game, send Penix to Vegas. And you'll see what happens. Because then you have Vegas, New York, Washington, Carolina, a whole month of Penix, and you have a team that's probably got what? 6 wins
so let me ask
far
you,
on the schedule?
you think they would bench Kirk Cousins in year 1 of $100+ million guaranteed contract? I'm talking about Carolina. Do we see him in week 18 when when they've either solidified their playoff spot or they're out of it and it's the last game of the season and they put the rookie out there? Like, I'm not talking about him taking over in there. I mean, last game of the season, they've wrapped up the division. They want to keep Kirk Cousins healthy. Do you just see him play that week 18 matchup a la, didn't Patrick Mahomes do that with Kansas City in his rookie season? He played the final game
they had the bye
versus Denver. Yeah, they had that. So that's what I'm talking. I'm not talking about Penix. You think he could play in season? I don't think so.
So the issue is here, Ray, and this is the biggest problem, is that you look at this schedule, right? When is Atlanta out of it? When are they really out of it? Ever. You got look at this: Vegas, New York, Washington, Carolina, all winnable games. And so that's where they'd have to be so bad to start this. Like, they got to lose to Pittsburgh, they got to lose to New Orleans.
They'd have to lose like 5, 6 straight.
They got to lose both
right?
Bucks games, right? We got them losing probably those 4 road games and then the Dallas game, which will be tough. But then imagine they lose to the Chargers and then they lose in Minnesota. Like, that's when the pressure would really be coming on. But to a lot of people's points about the strength of schedule, that last month could easily be 4 wins. And at that point, you're in it. You're in the playoff race. You're right there at 9-8 with Dallas. And that's when things become very difficult to project Penix playing. Like, you're talking about an Alex Smith situation. Atlanta's not winning 12 or 13 games to where they can rest Kirk Cousins for that last game. There's no way. You look at the schedule. We like the Bucks. We think the Bucks can be very competitive. We like the Saints a little bit because the Saints have a good defense and can play well against Atlanta. They do every year. Carolina, we expect to be a little bit better, but probably still lose both games. But even still, like, there's losses on this schedule, and especially some very tough road games for this team. So while I like the Falcons a lot, I think they can win some games. The issue is when you talk about Penix, is they'd have to lose a lot of games early in the year to be out of it to where Penix is going to be playing late this season, unfortunately, because that late season schedule is so bad. You're probably looking at teams that are all out of it at that point and playing for draft picks. The Raiders, we'll see. Maybe they can be a little bit better than we project, but the Giants, Washington, I don't know how you feel about them. I'm not really too bullish on Washington. And then Carolina, we expect them to still be a work in progress even through this season.
What I want to know, Jay, is who we can look at realistically here in 2024. And last year, going into the season, there wasn't a soul who thought Houston would be any good. Nobody. I mean, we were legitimately talking about Arizona. Think about this. Remember the days where we were saying Arizona was going to take Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. They're going to get both of them. They're going to be so shitty, and the Texans are going to be so bad, they're going to have the number 1 or number 2 pick, and we're going to get both of these guys in Arizona. Then all of a sudden, the Houston Texans were a couple of plays away from playing for an AFC title with a rookie quarterback in C.J. Stroud. You got the new head coach in DeMeco Ryans. You bring in Bobby Slowick to run the offense. Is there a team right now that you're looking at their schedule, you're looking at what they did last year, maybe they underperformed, maybe they weren't very good, and you're looking at the schedule, the offseason additions, the draft picks, and you're saying that's the squad right there. That's the squad that I want to put my chips in the middle of the table, say they are going to be this year's version of the Houston Texans. Now, I don't know if we can go as far as saying that anybody will be Houston, because in order to be Houston, you literally got to take the Carolina Panthers and say that they're going to make the playoffs. And I don't think as much as we like Dave Canales and what he's saying, I don't think anybody's buying that right now. So we can't go full on Houston 2024, but a squad that you think could go from that non-playoff team to locking up and solidifying a playoff spot in 2024. I've got a team, and it's actually it should be a quite obvious one. But do you have any that you like the schedule, you like what they've done, and you think that they're going to improve, turn around their situation and the circumstances here in 24?
So if I was to pick a team, it would actually be the Washington Commanders.
Interesting.
Because Jaden Daniels is a quarterback that can be the great equalizer for this team. He plays in a division that's very difficult, right? He's going to have to beat Philly and Dallas at least once probably to kind of make this happen. But outside of that, he has to go to Tampa, which for everything that the Bucs are, like, Washington could actually win that game if their offense showed up. They play the Giants. They play Cincinnati, Arizona on the road. I like Arizona. I still think Washington could potentially beat them if their offense is good. And more importantly, Ray, if Dan Quinn can get this defense going a little bit. The biggest problem for Washington was the secondary and the defense. You can't fix it all so much without adding a lot of personnel.
Those
but I do
linebackers
think this
were pretty
schedule is
poor
more than
too.
favorable. Right? You have Carolina, Chicago. Obviously, Baltimore will be a very tough game. But Pittsburgh, they can win that game. They can beat Philly at home because Philly hasn't played very well in Washington. They have Atlanta. They have to go to Dallas, obviously. It's going to be a tough schedule for them no matter what. But if I was to pick a team that really surprises, because in my opinion, Chicago shouldn't surprise people. There is a lot of talk about Chicago, how good they are, how good their offense is. No one's saying that about Washington when they have a head coach who was great defensively in Dallas. And while Cliff Kingsbury isn't the greatest head coach, he could be a pretty good offensive coordinator for this team that has a pretty solid stable of weapons, right? There's pass catchers, there's running backs, like there's a lot to go. It just all depends on Jane Daniels and how he plays. And so if I was to pick a team that actually surprised, it would 100% be the Washington Commanders.
That is a good pick. That would be a surprise. I think right now most people probably have them pegged as the third best team in the NFC East behind Philadelphia and Dallas, and clearly a cut above the New York Giants. That is a good one. And the team that I was thinking of, Jay, is the Chicago Bears. That was a team that they played well towards the end of the season. I believe you were dropping some stats defensively. They were like a top 10 defensive unit the back half of the season.
Ever since they got Sweat, right? Their defense took off. Yeah,
right,
they got Sweat, they took off.
Sweat he led the Commanders and the Bears in sacks, which is crazy. Yeah. And then they solidified Jalen Johnson. I'm trying to think of who they drafted defensively. I know we all know they drafted Caleb and Rome Odunze. But looking at the Bears' schedule, Jay, let's just pull it up because I do think this is a team that should push for a playoff spot in year one with a rookie quarterback, Caleb Williams. Really? I know that's a lot of high pressure to put on them, but again, the Bears were right there competing and vying for one of those mathematical playoff spots at the end of last season. They were right there with Bajent and Justin Fields carrying them along the way. They start off with Tennessee, Houston, Indy. So it's not an easy start for them. Followed up by the Rams. The first couple of games, I don't know, man.
Tough. Houston and Indy.
Listen, at Indy, but Indy's that will be a week 3 Anthony Richardson, who's basically going to be like a rookie quarterback again. And I love me some A-Ridge. Y'all know I love him, but that's a learning curve for him as well. You've got the Los Angeles Rams. That will be a difficult matchup. Carolina and Jacksonville, both of those winnable games. Jacksonville, difficult one, but winnable games. Then you got Washington, Arizona, New England. Those are winnable matchups. I'm not saying they will. I'm not doing the predictions, but those are winnable matchups. Green Bay, these are division opponents now. You've got Green Bay. This is where the gauntlet gets tough. You got Green Bay, Minnesota, Detroit, San Francisco. Right? That's tough. It's a tough stretch. And you got Minnesota, Detroit, Seattle, finish it out with Green Bay. NFC North is difficult. It's a tough division. This is one where you can see, remember, I think it was 2 years ago, the NFC East got 3 teams in the playoffs, the Giants, the Cowboys, and the Philadelphia Eagles. As I look around the NFC right now and I look at the divisions, it's not going to be the NFC East. I think they get one team in this year. I think it's one team from the East. NFC West, probably getting 2.
One team in the playoffs?
With the East,
Cowboys are out.
I think it's going to be one of Philly or Dallas. I do not believe both of them will go in because of the teams in the other divisions. I think the NFC West gets 2. NFC West, you've got the Rams and the 49ers.
Okay,
NFC
so you
North
got the Rams in.
I've got the Rams and the Niners in. NFC North, the Vikings not in, but I've got Detroit in, Green Bay in, Chicago potentially in. Then you got to go to the South. So you get one NFC
One
South team.
yeah.
Whoever wins the South, whether that be Atlanta or Tampa Bay, they're in. There's one more spot up for grabs.
So okay, so here's the thing though. You're that I think final spot, depending on the math, you're looking at Arizona, Dallas, or Chicago, and I think we would give the edge pretty heavily to Arizona and Dallas over Chicago.
I would not give Arizona the edge over Dallas. No, I mean over Chicago. I would not give Arizona the edge over Chicago. No, dude. No.
Even with what Gannon did is
I like it. I like what Gannon did year
very
one.
Good. So that's
Chicago's
why
defense is better. Arizona still got problems defensively, man. They're building some. I like what they're building,
but they have that's where if I could pick a team that's surprised, it would be Arizona. But
okay, that's a good surprise team.
Obvious to me, right? Like Arizona's a team that, yes, everything doesn't seem like it's going perfectly well for them right now. They got to play.
No, I like what Arizona's doing, Jay.
But they don't feel like they would surprise me if they were good either.
Let's look at
Buffalo.
Let's look at Arizona's schedule. Look at the first 3 games: Buffalo, the Rams, Detroit, Washington. After they've been beat up the first 3 weeks, then they go to San Francisco, go to Green Bay, Los Angeles, Miami, Chicago, the Jets. Talk about a difficult effing first 10 weeks, dude.
4 wins. They got to beat Chicago.
You're getting 4 wins out of the first 10 games? Hell no. No way.
That's probably best case. They
No
could
way.
beat the Chargers. They could beat
They're
the
not
Rams,
winning 4 of the first 10.
right?
No way.
San Francisco, probably not.
Absolutely
Buffalo,
not.
Probably.
Absolutely
okay, actually,
not.
right, here's a good question. Can they beat Buffalo? Because I think you look at Buffalo and you
not
say
in Buffalo, not
they're
week
not
1.
winning that game.
Not week 1 in Buffalo.
But in Buffalo, it don't matter. In September 8th.
On the road does matter. Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, the road
Yes,
matter,
it
but
does.
it's not like Kyler can play well. I think you're not giving enough credit to maybe what they can, because they're not this juggernaut right now. They could get there, but they're not really they're not Buffalo.
It has nothing to do with being and Arizona's not beating Buffalo right now.
I don't know. I'm intrigued. I think that game is going to be
all
closer
right,
than people think it will be.
Seattle, Minnesota, Seattle, New England, Carolina. That's a winnable stretch for Arizona. They could win some games in that 5-week stretch. Then you round out with the Rams and the Niners at the end of the season.
It sucks they got to play the Niners that last week, because that could be so the thing is that's interesting, right, is at least they're not the Rams where Shanahan would want to beat the Rams to keep them out. And I can see a situation where San Francisco rests players and they don't really care if they get in or not. But that's tough to have to play the Rams and San Francisco your final 2 weeks. But on the road, maybe you see a little bit of rest from San Fran if they're really, really good. But I mean, that back half schedule is easy. They can beat Seattle twice. They can beat Minnesota on the road. They can beat New England at home. They can beat Carolina on the road. It's really just those last 2 games. But if they're playing very well, maybe have a lot of positive momentum there for them. I like Arizona this year. They wouldn't surprise me if they were good, but that first half schedule is really tough.
Shout out to Fizzle. Fizzle said, Ray, you have Chicago over Dallas or Philly. I've got Chicago as the 3rd team in from the NFC North. Right now, I've got Philly over Dallas right now. Jay, I'm the biggest Cowboys fan there is, but I'm also not delusional. This team has literally done nothing from the end of last season to now to improve. Yep. They've done, sure, they went through the draft, but all 32 teams went through the draft. They signed no linebacker. Eric Kendricks was the only linebacker they brought in. They allowed James Cook to go out there and run for 332 yards on him, back to just right up the gut. I'm talking about Pop Warner, Pee Wee football type plays. 22 power, 23 power. They don't even run a counter, no sweep. They're running that shit line up right down the gut. And they didn't address linebacker. I know people, DeMarvion Overshown is coming back. He was a 192-pound linebacker at UT. How much bigger do you think he's gotten with his torn ACL? They didn't address that. They lost Stephon Gilmore. They lost 2 offensive linemen that have been staples on the offensive front. They're replacing them with rookies. This is a team, as much as I love them, that's my squad. I just have not been impressed with what they've done for the 2024 season. Maybe these are moves that allows Dallas to be better in the future, But in 2020, I don't think they're the best team in the East. I would give the nod to Philly. And if we were talking about the 7 teams that are the front runners that should be in the playoffs, I don't know if the East is deserving of 2 damn teams, man. I don't know if the East is deserving of 2 damn teams at this point in time. We'll see how it all plays out. The saga with Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb contract drama, the smear campaign of Micah Parsons starting early about him not being a front runner or not a team player. This just feels like a franchise that can't get out of its own way. Every other team in Dallas has been successful. The Rangers, Jay Rich, the Rangers have been struggling for years. They win the damn series. The Stars, the Arlington Renegade. I bet you the Dallas Wings win a damn WNBA title before Dallas even sniffs the NFC Championship. I don't really know what to say about the boys. I don't have a lot to say about them, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, they're in a tough spot, right? You look at all the other teams, they're finding ways to improve. Like, we talked about just about every team but the Giants, because the Giants they're terrible. They're not going to be good this year. But the Cowboys, they do need a lot to figure out, and they need to pray that they can hold that defense. Like, how do you feel about the defense with the absence of Dan Quinn? Because I think that could be a bit of a problem. Like, he seemed like he was a big part of what made them great.
The defense. There's no linebackers. There's no interior defensive run stopping tackle. DeMarcus Lawrence, you're just banking on 13th year DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons to generate pressure, and praying to God that Trayvon Diggs' knee is okay, and praying that Eric Kendricks and DeMarvion Overshown can play linebacker. You're just praying. It's just Magic Bean City in Dallas, but they're all in. I've got nothing to say about that squad. Going to the comments real quick, we had a super chat from our man Stanley. Shout out to our dog Stanley. I want the Raiders to take George QB1.
Georgia, I imagine. That'd be Carson
Georgia
Beck.
QB number 1. He's talking about Carson Beck. Carson Beck. Carson Beck is currently my quarterback.
You're in on Carson Beck, right?
I was in on Carson Beck last year, yeah. Carson Beck's a good player. He's athletic. He's big, physical, can throw the ball, SEC. I like Carson Beck. I think he's the QB1 right now, but I've got Shedeur right behind him. Shedeur can ball. Cody Jackson says, love your football takes. I'm just tuning in. Dallas might get swept, Ray. Have you seen any Timberwolves games? Luka, chunk ass, going to get locked down, no question. Hey, Cody, appreciate you. I love you saying you love the takes. We talked about the Timberwolves and the Dallas Mavericks earlier in the show. And I'm going to just tell you, since you're talking about Luka, you were very kind, Cody. But get that shit out of here, baby. Dallas in 6, baby. Dallas Mavs in 6. Luka's going to get it done, get to the first NBA Finals. Kyrie Irving going to help him get there, the old Wiley vet. D-Bro in the building. What's happening with you, D-Bro? What's going down with you? All out here is trailing a ton. So wheels up, passing volume. I don't know.
Talking about Arizona, You're talking about Arizona.
Talking about Arizona? Oh, yeah. Y'all still going at it with Marv versus Neighbors. There it is. Jay, anything you want to say to people before we get out of here? You will not be here on Monday. You will be out.
I will be out. Yeah, I'm flying to London for a wedding for the week, and I'm trying, Ray, to sneak my way into the Champions League final. We're going to see if I'm successful. Real Madrid versus Borussia Dortmund. Ray, you should watch it. It's going to be a good game. I got Madrid winning. I hope they win because they're the much better team. But yeah, I'm going for a wedding, so I'll be gone. I'll be back. I actually probably will miss 2 shows because I'm flying back on the Monday night.
Trash.
So I'll miss next week's Monday and the Monday after that. But I will be having a ton of fun, and I hope you guys have an awesome week while I'm away. But yeah, man, it's gonna be a good week, good time to get away, and very excited, man. It'll be a fun trip.
Well, I will still be here. I'm not gonna leave for 2 weeks because we've got a job to do. So I'll make sure to dock that pay for 2 weeks out. I thought it was just 1 week, but thank you for telling me right now that it'll be 2. But no, in all seriousness, Jay, get the hell out of here. Enjoy your vacation. We'll see you when you get back. But that does not mean Wake Up will stop. I will be live Monday morning, same time. Maybe I'll bring a guest on. Maybe it'll be D-Bro. Maybe it'll be just me. But we will be here next Monday. The content doesn't stop. Shane, Ty DeClaire, Overreaction Pod, Off the Line Pod, Destination Dynasty, Scott Connor doing Underdog drafts, HTTT film sessions. We got a bunch of content coming. So make sure you stay tapped in, locked in, hit that thumbs up button, like, comment, subscribe. Jay Rich, I'm going to let you sign us out before we get out of here. Hit the music, Jay.
I just want to say thank you to the people for wishing me safe travels. It's going to be a fun week. And Ray, I love that you said the content doesn't stop because we will see, because everything is now on you, my friend. So let's see what Ray G does in my absence. But thank you to everybody for tuning in. Hit the like button, subscribe for all of our future content, and I will see you when I'm back. But Ray will see you next week. I'm out. Peace.
Peace. Oh, damn. Oh, man.
Dude,
I know that. I know.
No!
I know. Fuck.
Oh,
I don't know how that. I don't know how that
crushed
happened.
it.